By the mid-13th century, the city of Vladimir had been reduced to a skeleton. The grand palaces once praised by the elders, decorated with intricate wood carvings and splashes of gold, had been leveled during the Mongol pogrom years earlier. Only the stark white stone heads of the cathedrals remained, towering over the empty lots and charred ruins of the surrounding city. Inside the palace's remaining dining hall lay the body of Alexander Nevsky. He had been the final figure capable of holding the fractured fragments of Kievan Rus together under the weight of the Mongol occupation. Nevsky's toddler son Danielko understood nothing of the loss. As he was lifted to kiss his father's cold forehead, the boy merely stared up at the candlelight reflecting off the golden icons and the ancient smoke-stained artwork. Nevsky's tossing instantly collapsed the political architecture of the region, leaving a collection of traumatized, competing territories without a single guiding hand. Stability was immediately threatened from within the family line. Nevsky's sons were already calculating their next moves, preparing to fight over what remained of their father's lands. The eldest son, Vasily, stood in the shadows of the hall, bitter and grim. He felt his mother had sided with his father during their past disputes, and he now looked at his younger brother, Andrei, as a direct rival for his inheritance. Tensions rose with the arrival of the Rostov princes. This powerful faction represented a distinct lineage, and they arrived in a single, unified bloc, keeping a sharp distance from Nevsky's immediate kin. A rigid hierarchy governed the room. At the top was Maria of Rostov, a woman whose status was defined as much by her royal blood as by the deep historical tragedies she had survived. Behind the rhythmic chanting of the funeral rites, the hall became a pressure cooker of political maneuvering, where every noble present scrambled to secure their future. Maria of Rostov represented the high price of standing against the Mongol Empire. 25 years earlier, her life was defined by a romantic independence. At 15, she married the young Prince Vasilko, traveling across the frozen plains in a high-speed winter sleigh ride toward a limitless future. That future ended in 1238. When the Golden Horde invaded, they captured her husband and executed him for his refusal to pledge service to Batu Khan. 7 years later, Maria lost her father, Prince Mikhail of Chernigov. He was killed in the Mongol camp, crushed to death under the eyes of his own grandson. Mikhail's death stemmed from a fatal delay. Instead of bowing to the horde immediately, he had traveled to the west seeking allies, a show of pride that Batu Khan punished with a public execution. The older generation's attempt to maintain their traditional honor led to their systematic elimination and the total subjugation of their ancestral cities. Witnessing these public executions rewrote the survival instincts of the children who survived them. Maria's son, Boris, was present when his grandfather was killed. That trauma instilled in the young nobleman a visceral, lifelong need to stay on the right side of the Khan. A new political doctrine took hold: survival through absolute obedience. The goal was no longer to fight the conquerors, but to pacify them. Fear dictated every internal move. The princes still sought power, but they only pursued the titles and lands that the Mongol Khans allowed them to hold. The Russian nobility had transitioned from sovereign warriors into a generation of survivors, motivated entirely by the need to prevent their own total annihilation. The heavy political tension in the room finally snapped when Nevsky's widow, Alexandra, approached her longtime rival, Maria. Alexandra's royal composure failed her. She collapsed into Maria's arms, weeping openly and heavily, her grief echoing through the silent hall. Maria set aside decades of political competition to comfort her, stroking the younger woman's shoulder with a quiet, maternal grace. In this moment, the fierce rivals recognized their shared reality. They were both victims of a brutal era, bound together by the same cycle of loss. As the emotional break ended, Metropolitan Kirill signaled for the council to begin. The royal families took their seats along the walls, beneath the gaze of the icons. This map shows the fragmented borders of the principalities they intended to divide. The goal of this council was to claim and distribute these territories. However, the proceedings were largely symbolic. None of the treaties discussed here held any actual authority. The central question, who would rule the land, was entirely dependent on the final decree issued by the Mongol Khan. Nevsky's death finalized the shift of power. From this point forward, the princes of Rus were administrative subjects, waiting for the Khan to dictate the future of their people.